Hello and welcome back to Sly 2, Band of Thieves. Often we tend to collect the bottles around this point now that we get to a new area, but I don't find it overly necessary just yet, because there's gonna be quite a while until we can actually get the safe now. We're back to the tradition of having the safe only being one specific mission, and just saying it's gonna be a while until we get to that mission. So instead, we're starting off with Murray, and one thing I gotta say already that I really like about this area, especially after we had the somewhat questionable design choices when it comes to the previous prog mission. The amount of missions per character is a lot more even in this area. I'm gonna say that right away. Oh, we actually need to get on the top there. I didn't remember that. You can already tell that by the fact that we have 3 missions, 1 for each character. Very nice stuff, actually. I like this a lot because, hey, it's a treasure. We're gonna get that a little bit later. Because things can often get very stale when you have, you know, 5 Sly missions in a row. Like, there's no problem with playing as Sly, for example. Sly is easily the most versatile and probably, to some extent, probably the most fun person to play as. But when you know that you have the other characters, it's a very different kind of thing because you want to play as those as well, and it feels weird when you don't get to do that. Anyway.
Hey, Murray, can you see the General from there?
Nope. Just an old man coming up the ramp.
Don't let his appearance fool you. That's General Clawfoot. And he's one of the toughest old soldiers you'll ever see. Not to mention head of castle security.
What if he doesn't want to come? I don't want to hurt him.
Oh, don't worry about that. He's only afraid of 2 things. Fire and water. Other than that, you couldn't hurt him if you wanted to. He might even come in handy along the way. As a projectile.
Wow, that is handy.
So we have an old army general, someone who is so fiercely dangerous that not even Murray should be, not even Murray is advised to take him on because he could possibly, he couldn't possibly do anything at all to him and whatever. What do we do with that? Well, we only have one thing we say to such things. Dobrovici, motherfucker.
Great. Now bring it back to the safe house. I marked it in your binocular.
Thank you, Bentley. Or should I say Deaky, just to follow the pattern. Okay, whatever. Yeah, we just kind of carry this guy around. It's... yeah, I don't know what he says. I think he's just babbling. I wouldn't think this game actually went so far that they... You have to protect the... Oh. I never actually realized that's why Bentley tells you he's afraid of fire and water. I guess I've never fallen into water before. I just thought that was sort of a thing they said to be like, you know, he's invulnerable to everything. I don't fucking know. Yes, Bentley, I'm working on it, even though it may not look like it. I mean, fire really isn't a big threat in this level, unless I guess the shootings from enemies will count. This is kind of a bad idea, actually. Let's just go for it. There's another treasure. I think we've already passed by all the treasures of this level. So this level really isn't the largest, to be honest. Once you have a good idea of where things are, which, you know, there's, as I said, just kind of the main 2 islands, and then on top of that you have the tall towers that you kind of need to distinguish, and aside from that, that's pretty much it. Anyway.
Well, General Clawfoot. We've got a lot to talk about. You wouldn't by chance know the security codes to the castle gates, hmm? Don't feel like talking, huh? How about a little of this?
Jack!
Talk, you scoundrel!
There really is no greater source of torture than that. Next up, we have an important mission to find some mojo. No, really, that pretty much is what we're doing.
That's it! I knew she'd have a bad mojo collector to transport the overflow.
Huh?
It's a semi-magical device that sucks up bad mojo. I'll need it to gather the runoff from these spouts.
Wow, sounds easy.
Not really. That mojo is a powerfully dark force. Take any damage while carrying that collector and you're done for.
Wow, sounds hard.
Yes, it presents an interesting tactical challenge. Perhaps I could use the death traps native to these crypts against any foe that might attempt to thwart my collection of the ectoplasm.
Huh? No way that'll work. I'd use that switch to smash up the guards before they ever got near me.
Precisely. Once all 4 cylinders of the collection device are full, that should be enough black magic to destroy the Mind Shuffler.
Murray really has the right idea. We get this thing, and there's gonna be a bunch of wolves coming after us. We can use these switches, however, to activate traps in order to get rid of them. I gotta be completely honest, I like this mission a lot, but... I mean, I like it a lot just kind of normally as well, but... One reason I like it a lot is because just the last time I played this, I didn't remember the mission at all. And for that matter, I didn't pay very much attention to what Murray and Bentley were saying. To such an extent that I did not notice the detail that these things are switches that you can interact with. I did this whole section right here not using a single trap and instead decided to defeat all the enemies with Bentley's very, very fragile self. And I'll demonstrate a little bit of that later on, because this isn't the only room we're going to be seeing at this. But this is, you know, very simple stuff, and honestly, just battling right here, even with Bentley, wasn't really that difficult. It was a really interesting challenge. I'd recommend you try it out at least.
Looks like the spouts run out of bad mojo. No matter, I'm 1/4 of the way to a full tank.
I'm not really sure how to use your computer, but a new crypt should be up in your binocucom.
That's okay, Murray, you're doing a very good job. Anyway, we have 4 crypts that we need to infiltrate and find all this bad mojo, and thus we have a lot of time on our hands to experiment on things. And in fact, before I go in here, I'd like to try, just for one attempt, to see how much I can do this without using the traps. And as such, I'd like to look at my equipment here, because the way I did this before, I want to have the shrink thing on L2, and then the throwing trigger bombs. That's fine. That's kind of a just in case kind of thing. That's not really going to be used a whole lot. But most importantly, the snooze bombs. These are very, very important. And here you can see on the right of that the thing that we're going to be buying from the thing later on. That move is not useful in the slightest in this mission. So don't worry about having picked that up yet. There's no reason you would ever need that. And also the running turtle thing, completely useless here as well. You'd think that you could probably use that to get some sort of quick getaway from enemies if you need to, you know, get away. But it doesn't really help you at all. Again, for the reasons I said before, it's not easy to control and doesn't stop when you want it to. And it also has really bad acceleration, this kind of a thing. It's not really helpful in that sense, because if you try to use it to get quickly away from an enemy attack, you're probably gonna get hit before you get away anyway, so it's completely useless in my eyes. Now, we have some traps here, and as soon as we step forward, enemies are gonna begin spawning in from the cages over there. The traps that we have laid out here, well, I'll probably not make it this attempt, so I guess I'm not gonna bother trying to explain it. Going to the side here, I like to throw a bomb over to as such and lay down a snooze bomb. As you probably remember, snooze... It didn't fall asleep for that? Okay, come on. When enemies are asleep, you can lay down a bomb and defeat them instantly. This is pretty much the thing you want to go for. You want to get enemies to fall asleep and then throw down a bomb at them. But keep in mind that there's a very distinct difference between an enemy being asleep and just being knocked out. Now, I believe this mission works that... Oh, yes, I got all of them. Perfect. I believe this mission works in the sense that the amount of mojo you need is determined by how many enemies you defeat, in that the mission is over when you've defeated X amount of enemies. I believe that's how it works, but don't quote me on it, because I've never actually looked this up or anything. Now, what I like to do is to equip a sort of... Ah, no! I felt that was going so well. You know what? I'm gonna try this one more time. I felt it was going really well, and I could have done it. As I was about to say, though, I like to equip a sort of backup shrink thing, because it uses some of the special gauge, but really not a lot, and seeing as we're going to be defeating a lot of enemies, health pickups are not a problem. Now, sometimes, I wish it could happen, but sometimes when you position yourself where I keep doing it to the beginning there, the wolves will sort of try running towards you without you know, much success at all. The run! Oh my gosh. Oftentimes I find it to be... Ooh, hey, I could use this. Oftentimes I find that jumping while trying to run away can make things easier for you. Oh, are they gonna... Yes! Because I already had that one hit. Now... I know I said only 1 attempt, but one more! Three's the crowd, but that's not what I meant to say at all. Yes, see, now the wolf is going to be fixated on me, but not able to go over the spikes. He apparently got... Hey, 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 hey! That's not how I intended this to go at all. Fine, whatever, that works. We got the guy defeated. What usually ends up happening there, though, is that like 3 or 4 of the wolves are gonna be collected and situated on that, and kind of stuck is the word I was looking for. Thank you, God. They're gonna be kind of stuck up there, and you can use that to throw a bomb and get a ton of hits all at once. Now the spikes there kind of work as traps that you don't need to activate yourself, because as long as the wolves go over them, that's gonna be good enough. This is a very slow process if you're gonna go about actually doing this right. Because as you probably noticed, Bentley can only take 1 hit before it's all over because of the bad mojo machine. It doesn't, it can't take any more than just 1 hit. And thus it's very, very important to be very, very careful! I thought I could go in there quick enough. Fine, I'll stop trying, because I've tried this for a very long time once without actually ever being able to do it right. I've never been able to do this right without the traps, because it is really hard and you need to be really careful, and it's a really slow process. Again, because of the fact that you need to defeat X amount of enemies before the mission is complete. It's a bother. It's really fun to try for a little while, but I'm very glad it's not the intended solution. I thought it was for a very long time until, I think at a certain point there's going to come up a pop-up message on the top there that says, like, you know, press the circle button to do this and that's going to be your indication that you can activate the traps if you didn't pay attention to what Mario Bentley said. Thank the Lord I saw that eventually, especially considering this is just number 2 of 4. Like, I thought that time this was going to be the most tedious and terrible mission ever, because things could only get more difficult from here. And the weirdest part was that I didn't remember it at all. You would think that a mission like that I would remember it, and that probably is because I was doing it all wrong. But anyway, we've lingered enough on that. If you can get a pattern... That really didn't work? Come on. If you can get a pattern going where... Ooh, there we go. I had a pattern going once where I switched between the... Oh, you didn't die? I switched between the pendulums like this, and then once there's 2 on like that, we activate the swords, and that didn't work at all. Wow, okay, we also have this last one here, which crushes, which is very nice. If you're being Oops. If you're being careless like me, as I was saying, you may have to do some actual fighting anyway. Here we go. Wait for as long as possible with that, No, this isn't how it worked. Wait for as long as possible with that sword. I remember doing that so that I could get 2 at once with the, pendulum thing, whatever you want to call it. And then I used the swords, that's, when that worked out. Yes, there we go. 2 at once like that. Wait for the next guy to come. 2 at once like that. And then the swords in the tracks there are kind of like a backup in case you miss any of them. You can just kind of keep going with this one single trap. And then the other traps work as backups. And since they work as backups, they're always available because they don't take that long to recharge unless you rely on using all of them. See, now the timing was a little bit off. Oh, I could have done it, but I didn't react in time to the fact that the thing was reactivated. Oh, I got one of them at least. What's fortunate is that despite the fact that Bentley's crossbow really doesn't do a lot of damage, it pushes the enemies away. And as you saw when I tried to do this without the traps, it's immensely helpful if you're in a pinch to just hit the enemies, just to get them away from you, because it doesn't do damage for shit. It's not worth doing that unless you've shrunk them. Which apparently I activated the shrinking thing, that wasn't on purpose. With the shrinking, you know, you can defeat them quite easily, but when there's too many of them, it's not really an easy thing to keep a track of, so that's why this is the whole thing is a difficult thing to do without traps. Wow. But anyway, as you can see, we're almost done now, and the reason why I think that the amount of enemies is what decides how long this takes is because this takes an eternity if you don't use the traps, and if you use the traps, it just kinda, you know, doesn't. Maybe that's because it's so much easier, so it just feels nicer, but I don't know. I really wish I could have done it without the traps, though. Would have been really cool. Would have had great bragging rights, you know? Oh, why did I do that? That was an accident. I just kind of saw the guy in the background there, panicked slightly. Oh, you're the last guy. I can just kind of knock you out. Beep, boop.
Excellent! Another chamber in my mojo collector is full. Moving on to the third crypt.
There should be a new waypoint in your binocular.
There should be, but I can't see it because things are too tall. I really like this. Hey! Well, that just sucked. Next trip is right over here by the graveyard. And things are going to get a little bit more difficult even with the traps. So the one in the middle here is really useful. I'm not gonna use it just yet, but that releases a gas that'll put all the enemies in the area to sleep. What you wanna do is to start by using the traps around you, which take a very long time to recharge again. That's why you want to use all the traps before using the middle one. You use all those, and then while waiting for them to recharge, a lot of enemies are going to spawn in, and it's going to be a huge clutter and a huge bother to deal with. That is when you suddenly activate the sleep and bomb them all! Very satisfying. And once a certain amount of enemies come in, it seems like not more are going to spawn in, so I think... I don't know, maybe there's like an X amount to aim for or something like that in order to maximize efficiency out of the sleep... what's it called? Smoke thing? I have no idea. But that's a pattern I like to follow anyway. Use the traps that you can, wait for them to respawn a little bit, but then wait for the group to gather, I guess. And then we have a lot of them, and then just suddenly smoke. Now, because they fall asleep so quickly, it's pretty non-threatening to run over to the thing here, even there's a lot of guys in the way. Because they're probably not going to get to you, even if they're in the start of an attack, they're going to be interrupted by falling asleep. So there really isn't much threat to going on the top here to activate the trap. And we really don't have a lot to do left already. This is probably the final wave, in fact, if I would guess. So we do this. Smoke the bomb out of... well, there's no smoke bombs here, that's the wrong character. Do that, one more.
That does it for this room. Looks like I've only got one more crypt to go.
I'm really getting the hang of this. I just sent you another waypoint, but it's kind of buried in the well. You'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out because you did just tell me. There's nothing really kind of mysterious or weird about that. You just jump in the well and then that's it. If you've already been collecting bottles, you've probably already noticed this. And here we have the last one. We have a lot of water to deal with, and this one is very different. I'm going to explain already what happens, just so that you're sort of... I mean, I can explain while doing it. We have 3 different traps, and enemies are going to be jumping onto them. You want to activate the traps while the enemies are landing on them, to avoid having them come over to your side. The traps thus activate very quickly again, so you need to be very quick on your feet, rotating between the 3 and not letting the guards get across. If they do, there is a 4th trap on the back here that you can use. You can also just sort of punch them into the water if you want. That's probably the easier thing to do. But the 4th trap will electrocute the water as such, and not just the water, but just kind of the whole general area, I guess. Which is very handy to get rid of a huge horde of enemies in case you mess up like I just did and you have a lot of things on your plate, you know? It's nice to not have things on your plate. Now, what I like about the traps is that, as you could see a couple of times, you can activate them prematurely. If you have good enough timing, you can see that a wolf is going on a certain stage, and then you just activate the trap in time, so that you have time to go to the next person. And I'm really not doing a good job of demonstrating what I'm talking about, but trust me, I'm not crazy. Anyway, if you're diligent enough, then the 4th trap is going to respawn quickly enough that you don't need to worry about defeating a lot of enemies. Wow, that was quick.
With a mojo collector at full capacity, I should be able to blow the clockwork eyes off that mine shuffler. This is going to be great.
I was in the middle of a sentence, but it really wasn't important. So, fuck it. With that, we have started on some good preparations to... Oh, let's make the boat. You started on some good preparations towards doing whatever we're doing. And next time, I say we're going to continue with some of that. So as such, thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.